Hi, thank you for watching. I just wanted to introduce this video by saying that this is going to be the start of a series I'm planning on doing where I interview different music educators about different topics in the field, and this one, of course, is going to be about maintaining a program in the face of distance learning. So how to keep your numbers up, how to keep music happening, and how to keep connected in the face of this social distancing. So I hope you enjoy. I hope we all learn something. You're currently in the center of my screen, Tim. You're under the speaker view, so introduce yourself to us, Tim.
Okay, hi, I'm Tim Ellison. I am the director of bands now at Ooltewah High School in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area. And I took over this program 2 years ago, about to start year 3, after teaching university for about 4 years. And so that's where I'm at now.
Tiffany?
Tiffany Hitz. I teach middle school band at Carson Middle School in Fairfax, Virginia. I've been there since 2014, but I've been in the county since just after 2000, and been involved with middle school for about the last 10 years. And before that, I taught elementary band for a while.
Nice. Jordan?
Hi, everybody. I'm Jordan Lee. I am currently teaching at Western Guiford High School, and this is my 3rd year. Yes, my 3rd full year, 4th year of graduates. So I came in as a substitute teacher, and that was an experience in itself. But yeah, that's what's got me here.
All right, and lastly, Chris Hansen.
I am at Anderson University, where I am an assistant professor of music, where I teach graduate courses in music education online, and I conduct a university choir and teach choral music methods. And before here, I was at UNCG, which is our major connection, for 4 years, where I was instructor of record and did my graduate work. And then before that, I was a high school choral director. So yeah, this is now, I think I'm completing year 17 of teaching.
And I guess I should introduce myself. I'm not going to be giving responses on this, but for those of you who want to know my perspective, I am Enoch Robbins. I teach elementary K-5 music in Durham, North Carolina. Also went to UNCG. This is my 3rd year in that position, yeah, because Jordan and I graduated together. So I want to say thank you all. We have a great variety of experiences and variety of situations here. And hopefully between everyone's ideas, we'll be able to help some people. And this will be able to apply to lots of different situations. So I'm going to start off with the questions I wrote out for you. Number 1, what are some ways that you have adapted your program to keep students active and engaged during the sudden onset? And I guess we can go through the same order as we introduced ourselves. So Tim?
For us, we really had no prep time to turn this thing around. As many people were, when this all started, there were some systems, I think, who were being diligent, who were going ahead and saying to their teachers, this is a real possibility, go ahead and start making plans. Our system is very reactionary, and we got told on Thursday that Monday we would start online learning. So, and then immediately following that, we were told we need to have 1 to 2 grades a week in for the kids. So that kind of gave us some further guidelines. So it really became a scramble quick, dealing with ensemble issues. We were in the middle of our concert performance assessment preparation, and it was actually scheduled later this year, so we didn't get to do that. Didn't get to have any pre-festival concerts or any concerts or anything like that. So, I think I'll be a little bit, let me reference the question again, sorry. To keep students active and engaged, and let me just share this too, this is a little bit of a personal thing. So the COVID-19 happened, we went online in mid-March, and then on Easter Sunday night, we had a tornado that came through our area and destroyed much of the district in which I teach, that particular area. So our kids have been dealing with a lot of life issues right now. I mean, I've got kids that have lost everything. I've got kids that, are fine. So really, my role in this whole thing was, okay, we're going to stop teaching now, and we're just going to kind of minister, to steal a word from the church, minister to people's needs, because right now them turning in an online playing test doesn't matter because they're sifting through the ashes of a demolished house. So, you know, what I tried to do was provide some opportunities. I would say maybe trying to connect students with private instructors in the area, and myself also reaching out to them for maybe some resources that the students could work on their own. But if I do have a plan for fall, we're going to start, if we have to go online in the fall, we're going to use apps like Audacity. And so what I'm going to do is do individual lessons online with the kid every week, and then get them using that software so that they can start hearing themselves play, and then they can get into playing duets with themselves and things like that. Some just some chamber music to develop their tone and all the things that we do on a fundamental basis.
Very nice. Tiffany?
Well, different than Tim, we had a little bit of prep. I mean, we didn't know we were going out. It was actually the weekend of our assessment, and we were supposed to have students performing Friday and Saturday, and Thursday night they called it, and we didn't go back. But it was weeks before we started doing any distance learning. The priority had been placed on, similarly to Tim in this case, just getting families situated and taking care of immediate needs that are beyond schoolwork. So I had the benefit of learning and seeing what other people in the country were doing. So I spent a lot of time on Facebook and the band director group, things like that, to see what other people were doing and get ideas. So I felt a little more prepared for it than someone in Tim's situation where he just got thrown into it. We were already doing Google Classroom video submissions every week, so we've continued doing that. And our students had smart music already, though now everyone can have it. But we've used it as an opportunity to really get the kids more engaged in that. I have a teammate who's actually from North Carolina. My teammate at school did a really great scavenger hunt to help the kids kind of figure out the nuts and bolts of smart music so they can find things they're interested in, because we knew the priority was just going to get them to play and help them have enjoyment for playing. Obviously, without performance responsibilities for the end of the year, we have a little flexibility in how we access the curriculum. So we've done a lot of asking students what they want to learn and how they want to learn it, because there are 100 different ways to access what we're trying to teach them. And so students are getting some more choice in that. We now are doing synchronous learning as well as asynchronous learning. And so we meet with our students for 45 minutes each. And in our ensembles, we see all of our students in large ensembles, and they meet for 45 minutes a week. And then we're doing what's called an 8th period enrichment. And last week it was just showing them online concerts they could go to. And this week it's going to be all about movie music. And we're going to show them some videos about movies with sound and without music, and just to kind of link them in a little bit more and give them some things that might grasp their interest a little more, to have them want to do things. But we've been able to continue the online things we've been doing, which has been great. And then just adding extra things. We did put our pieces that we had planned to do for our May concert cycle. We did anything that was available. We put in smart music without expectation, but just so students would have the opportunity. This is what we had planned for you next. And if they want to, they can go and do that. We had a Zoom chat right away to just connect people. And we have office hours where, like this morning, we had a student come in and just for 45 minutes, just chat, just kind of shoot the breeze with us. Because I think what we have found is that it's just important for them, not just the music connection, but in ensembles, they get that personal connection. And so we've tried to do that as much as possible. So the last thing I'll say is, I got this idea from a teacher in Texas, but the end of each of our sessions, our synchronous sessions, we're playing a game, doing something with them, doing a little Pictionary or categories or apples to apples or something to just give them a chance. They're getting together on their own, but this was your band family, and we're going to give you a chance to hang out and do things together.
All right. Thank you very much. Now on to the chorus side of things. Jordan?
Hey, so my situation was kind of a hybrid of both of yours. The transition period was very quick. It was not anticipated at all, and there was a process in place. We're using Canvas, but there was no use of Canvas at all, really, at our school. So I'm thankful that there was a platform, and that learning process was not terribly difficult, but trying to get all of our students to engage in that way was very, very difficult, and difficult for me to kind of jump on board immediately with. As much as I'm here for change and different, in some of those like groups, like the choral chat, or you said like your band director chat, I had a hard time trying to implement all the new things that I was learning. And that's how it was working. I was like becoming oversaturated with everything that I was learning. And at first, I was about to kind of play the same with what I was seeing from others, where there's like, do it all, show them that, the music never dies, like you be in there. And then I kind of stepped back and was like, what is your philosophy of like what you want for your kids? And it's always been a contemporary outlook. So I did the same thing you did, Tiffany, and tried to bring their lens to what we're doing. And I think it made them much more comfortable about how I'm approaching the rest of the year. So what is different from a lot of other people is that I did get the opportunity to compete. And I did get the opportunity to have a very large concert series that they could see as a culminating experience. And so I'm thankful for that and humbled by that. So approaching the rest of the year, I was like, they've been fed what they needed to, in the sense of that, even though we were going to still have other concerts and things. So I've taken the approach of immediately diving into all of the processes that they use to be entertained by, and then meet them there with music making things. So I've used applications like Voicey. That's a new application that allows students to be able to modify their voice to sound any way that they want, of a studio production quality, which has been really cool. You get 60 seconds to experiment. They get to write, experiment, do whatever you want. And if some people have seen, I got pretty heavy into the TikTok world, just so they could see my face in their world. And I joined in, I learned challenges that they did. And it was actually primarily dancing, and that kind of led to the new mindset that I just want y'all to create. Doesn't matter what it is. Don't stop. And so moving forward, I've been exposed to other platforms merging together and using that as a contemporary outlook, like Soundtrap, which is it's an online DAW, which is like a music creating software, and then partnered with Zoom. So Soundtrap allows you to sync up whatever they're doing with their music in live time. So they'll work on something. You could be on a Zoom call. They hit sync. I see exactly what they did, and I can make it additions to it at the same time because I'm on the Zoom call and I can see what they're doing. So it's figuring out how to partner together these things with also being me, and trying to stay track on the question, but also something personal for me. My purpose when it comes to helping students, educating, mentoring, all of it, is there's a reason. And so in this period of time where I feel like I have to focus on me, I'm trying to find ways to bring them out of that as well. I get on weekly Zoom calls, and it's actually not music related. We sit on for about 2 hours, and I let them vent. I let them talk. We'll watch YouTube videos. So it's really unconventional, and I want them to know that I am just as human as they are, and they are not crazy for experiencing this. We will still learn at some point, but the one thing I need you to learn how to do is navigate a growth mindset, being able to use this challenge as an opportunity to overcome something instead of be weighed down by something. So I'm actually here to learn about some of the musical outlets that can be used, because I veered away from them so far, just to make sure that the kids were okay. So that's kind of been the process that I've been taking inside the classroom.
All right. Well, lastly on this one, Chris.
The question, what are some ways that you have adapted your program to keep students active and engaged despite the sudden onset of digital learning? So the context really quickly and succinctly. Anderson University had a meeting the week before spring break, and spring break for the university is really early. It's early March. In our last faculty meeting, which was the week before spring break, we were told by the provost that there is this thing coming, this coronavirus, and we had kind of an idea that there was something brewing. And he said there might be a chance that we have to do a online only situation. And of course, at that time, nobody could consider what we dealt with. And so we were actually considering doing like an experimental, everybody go online for a day kind of a thing. And then we all went away. And then COVID-19 happened, and we'd never returned. We got an email not soon after spring break started that we had a task force, and we were thinking through scenarios and trying to figure out what would go on. Another day later, the task force had said we're going to extend, our spring break for students for another week. Then they identified faculty across the university who were really savvy with digital and online learning, and they created what they call liaisons. I was one of the ones selected for that, and they assigned them to various schools around the university, like College of Dance, College of History, and basically said, you've got a week to convert all traditional classes to online, which was a challenge for many of us, for all people. But we were successful in getting all of that on there. And similar to what Jordan had said, we had Canvas. Canvas is a great learning management system. And I've embraced it since my time at UNCG, where UNCG was actually used as one of the first schools to try it out. Well, we saw that a lot of school classes had these shells that students can use to engage with their course. And we just went right into that and wrapped it all up and started to put content on there. I don't want to talk too much about that process, but it happened relatively quickly. The entire school, and I'm sure everybody else did, just went into full steam mode. We've got to go online, and it needs to be successful. We had regular meetings as a faculty, and I think we've had increased meetings. I feel like I've had more meetings than I've ever had in my entire career. Like weekly meetings with various schools, weekly meetings with larger task forces, weekly meeting with individual groups, and with me being a liaison for the first 2 weeks, liaison to the other university members. I was on Skype every day, all day, helping my colleagues get their classes developed, get their classes online. Now, for me, all of my academic courses that I teach were already online, so they weren't affected. The only class that affected me that was not online is the one that most of us are most concerned about, choir. And so what did I do? Well, first I cried, and then I prayed, and I recalled the virtual choir that I saw my students do back in the early 2000s when they were involved with Eric Whitaker's first and second and third virtual choirs. And I thought, man, here's something that we can use. And I know that there is like this divide in the choir world. Are you with this, or are you not with this? And there's a lot of talk about that. I saw it as a means to stay productive. I saw it as a means to keep the community engaged. I saw it as a means to, even though we are separated, based on the philosophy that Eric Whitaker had given in many of the interviews, we're still united. And the community, for me, is what's most important. And I know colleagues might not agree with me when it comes to our primary purpose, but for me, music is a vehicle through which we inspire and change and motivate and heal. I'm an outlier in that music is completely like something I'll do for the sake of music, but I can't say that for everyone. And for the most part, a lot of the folks who join the choirs that I am very privileged to lead, they're really attracted to the community. They're attracted to each other. They're attracted to the conversations, the discourse, and the music making. And of course, we make beautiful music, and there's this extra added effect. So I needed to nurture that. And the only thing I can imagine was to do something that had something novel, something big, something that we had never done before. I don't know, we've all been in this situation. When you take something away that's really big and really important, and for me, that was our President's Gala and our Spring Choral Festival. These were two big things my students were looking forward to. When those were removed, you have to fill the void. And so I did something, the virtual choir, something I'd never done before, and it was terrifying. So immediately I had to think, what am I going to do? What am I going to set in place? So Canvas we had already there. We had already been using Canvas as a flipped classroom for my choir because I put supplemental rehearsal materials on there. I put rehearsal tracks on there. I put all of my notes. I send them letters every day, kind of Robert Shaw method. I write them at the end of every rehearsal. So they're used to engaging on it. But I learned that a lot of them didn't really use it as much as I had thought. So then I had to figure out ways to keep them engaged. And this directly answers the question. How did I help my students actively engage? I used Flipgrid. Flipgrid is a wonderful tool that is kind of like a video discussion. Rather than a traditional discussion board where everybody types their answers to questions and respond to each other, they just turn on their phone or whatever device and they're able to speak. And I can limit how long, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And I gave them a prompt for each week. And I had to do some forward thinking during that week before we opened our classes back up. What would my questions be for week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5 as we move forward? And I had to think, where might we be in that process and what questions might I ask? So the Flipgrids were wonderful because it made students think intellectually about what we were doing. And that was important. I didn't want them just to go, oh, I'm doing great. I needed them to actually have a conversation, a dialogue, a discourse with one another. And they had to respond to each other as well. And those became grades. Now, those were grades I'd never had before for choir, but they became grades and they were pass-fail. It's either you did or you didn't, very low stakes, which made it very easy. And it also took the motivation away from the grade. It took the motivation away from the number. It put more motivation on the conversations that they were having. And of course, what did you expect? They had more conversations than you ever would know. I also used Zoom, as we all are, especially right now, to engage meeting with my students on a regular basis. We've been using Zoom at AU for as long as I've been hired there now. I'm just completing my 3rd year. And it's great because I can put my entire choir into one room and we can have conversations. So every single day during our normal rehearsal time, I opened up Zoom and allowed students to come in. Now, I know some of my colleagues have used this to be a structured time. I was still trying to figure things out. And so at the onset, I just said, this is open time for us to catch up, check in on one another, continue our community, answer questions that you might be having. Later down the road, and we'll talk about the future later on in your questions, I'll open that up. I've got some future ideas on what we might be doing with Zoom next semester. I required virtual rehearsal recordings. So my students had to produce video every week. They had to record themselves singing their part to the songs that we had selected for this experience with a conducting track that I had produced with my colleagues. So they sang to a conducting track while wearing headphones and hearing themselves and singing. And I know we've all experienced this in some way with social media, and many of us have actually been involved in it. I'm not going to go and unpack that experience. There's a lot of that out there. But that's what I made them do every week. So they were effectively rehearsing. And then I made them in the reflexive questions and the Flipgrids reflect on their work and talk about that and continue the dialogue. So in that class for the next 5 weeks, we rehearsed, we sang, we talked, we cried, we laughed, we maintained community, and in the end, we produced a video, which we put out yesterday. Some of you might have seen it. So there we go. That's what I've done with the sudden onset.
All right. One of the big things with this, I guess, is that as we answer questions, we are going to kind of talk about other questions while we go on. So I may wind up skipping out a couple of the questions in here because we have talked about, some of us have already talked about what we're going to do next semester. Some of us have already talked about the priorities with our students. Of course, it seems like we are all kind of in agreement, as everyone seems to be, social, emotional, meet basic needs first, Maslow before Bloom, make sure that our students are safe, well, and emotionally safe and well. before we even try to break into content, which of course I think any educator would be with us on that. I'm going to start with the choral people again for going with this one. For question number 2, are there any strategies that you have for advocating your class's importance to your administration? And this may, of course, apply more to the primary, secondary field than the university field, because yours are a little bit more, I want to say, tied up in administration. There's a little bit more security there. I might be reading that wrong, but are there any strategies that you have for advocating your class's importance? Go ahead, Jordan, start us off.
At this point, I really don't know. And I'm not. We're not in a time yet to know if a program is going to fail because of something like this, or a program is going to survive because of something like this. And so I go based off what I've shown. And so through my work, I believe I've shown the importance of community, which I've established as my philosophy for what choir means: cultivating honest and open-minded people, period. And so bringing that now to what could be what's in the future, or what, like, if an administrator asked me this question, I'd want to say I'd make a virtual choir. But as Chris even said, he had a team. Like, that's something I'd have to do by myself. And like, I know that there are people doing that by themselves. That's a huge load. And in the sense of advocacy, I know that there are plenty of people that would support and back the importance of the arts, no matter if we're near or far. And through these other creative mediums that I have been using, I think that idea of community is still celebrated. I do see, let's say it could get worse and we were virtually learning another way, I could really see choir shifting slightly towards like a general music mindset. And I'm not unprepared for that. I actually feel like I do that more than others. So I think that will be okay. But in the sense of what would happen traditionally with what people should view, or why choir should stay if we were a virtual platform, my argument will always be, this is where people find community when there is not community. This is where everyone speaks the same language when everyone else speaks another language. It's one of the things that cannot be explained, just as much as you can't explain the feeling when you're performing with a band or a choir and you're in the moment and you feel that feeling. That's what every student would say about the reason why they need to be in choir, even if they're by themselves at home. So I think that advocacy would be the voices of our students more than me speaking. It would have to come from them.
So to put that in like 4 words: stay visible, stay flexible.
Oh yeah. So and along with visibility, I did want to say something about that. That is one thing I'm not afraid of doing. I will put myself on the internet. I don't care what I'm doing or what I look like. And I think that humanist part of it plays a role. I think that, me making music the way that I like to, whether it's obnoxiously riffing and running and doing nothing that's choral anything, it's still an invitation. It's an invitation that you can be my age, you can look like me, you can be my demographic, you can be anything and still create, even in your own space. It doesn't have to stop. And so if that lens, that mindset lens shifts, choirs, people singing together, to choir is community, I think there won't be a problem with the advocacy for the program.
All right. Chris?
Well, I got to say that this is a scary topic for everyone, regardless of what level you are at, whether you're primary, secondary, higher ed, community choir, professional choir, because now it questions the value of this endeavor that requires human-to-human interaction. If you haven't been reading the news, I'm sure you have, there are now governments banning choral singing in church services in other countries because the sheer let's just talk about the nuts and the bolts. We talk a lot about spit a lot when we sing, and in instruments too. You know, you have spit valves, and saliva is just going everywhere, and we're doing it with great force. We're propelling micro, bubbles, if you will, into the air, and we're breathing it in, and this is a bad thing for COVID-19. So this is a big topic across board. Now, I know I've been involved in a lot of conversations with various professional organizations on a national level about this very topic, and there are directors who are afraid that they're not going to have positions because the validity of having a band meet or a choir meet is just not going to work, and that's terrifying. So people are now, and I'm speaking generally, and I don't want to speak for everyone. This is just an idea that's floating around. It's just, we have to produce something. We have to produce. And I hate to say it, but our American society that's got to codify and commodify just about everything for it to have meaning. They're about product. We are about process. But a lot of folks, including our administrations, are about product. And we've got to have something. And that kind of pressure, I feel it. I feel it. Really, I feel it. And so that does motivate some of the things that I have to do, which I feel like I have to do, which is I have to produce something. Because if I don't have something at the end that's tangible, that has some sort of utility, that can be shared publicly, somebody else above me on the food chain or the whatever chain of command might say, well, why do it? You didn't bring home any trophies. No one's getting any more awards, blah, 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 blah. They're motivated by these things. So I haven't had any one-on-one conversations with my higher level administration about this. So I haven't had the chance to advocate for what we're going to do. And now I'm going to speak at my level, the university where I'm at. We as colleagues have been talking individually, and we've been talking together as department about what the future might be and how we will grow from this. And there's a lot of interesting conversation. There's a lot of other ideas. But I think one thing that we're all, and I don't want to speak for my colleagues, so I'm going to say this with just, take this with a degree of caution. I think we all understand some level of product or some level of tangible thing has to be shareable at the end of this. What does it look like? I don't know. Is it virtual chamber choir? Is it virtual ensemble this, virtual ensemble that? I don't know. But similar to Jordan, community is key. We don't do music. Not everybody does music for the product. We do it for the process. The community is important. And so I'm a big advocate that we continue to have these arts classes where we explore creation, we explore our human endeavor to create, and what we do with that constantly. I think that community is important. I'll say this last thing. My students have said to me explicitly in their reflective writing and in their flip grids that they love the time that we have together as a virtual choir. Even though we do not have that time together personally, we're still together. And they're so excited, and they need that time. They need that. So if you want to go mental health, psychological health, this serves a major component. We need this human outlet. It has to happen.
So the voices of our students being a very powerful tool. Moving on to the band people, Tiffany.
I feel very fortunate that I haven't had to do any advocating yet. I will see what is to come, but in our county, the synchronous classes were just with math, science, English, and social studies. And our school, and each principal, each administration made the decisions. Our school decided that electives were also having synchronous classes. Fully aware that we weren't going to be able to do them the way that we do them, and knowing that we were going to have impediments, but recognizing that there's that other that we offer to the kids that was going to be important. Looking forward, I think, I wish we could all see the future, because I think we could have some concerns, some things to worry about. But I think that we just have to remain really flexible and forward thinking as logistics become what they are. I'm really concerned. I think I have not had concerns that there won't be band, but I've had concerns about what that's going to look like. Is it all going to be chamber music? Am I going to be able to have an 80-piece band rehearsing every day, or am I going to have 10 people? And with the large instruments, we've been fortunate up to this point that we had a set in school, and then students had the large instrument at home. Like they had a tuba at home, and then there was a tuba that was used by 5 different people during the course of the day. I mean, clearly that's no longer going to be a reality. So how are we going to manage instrumentation? Whatever we're able to do, you know, we're going to have to change our expectations and be really flexible and do the best with what we have, because it can't look the same. We don't have enough money to be able to get, you know, another 10 tubas at every school. It's just not possible. So I think it's, you know, it's just kind of being aware that it might be different, and I'm just trying to keep my ear to the ground and hear what other people's ideas are. And then when push comes to shove for me, I feel like I'll have kind of an arsenal of ideas to be able to draw from, because I can't figure it out on my own for sure.
Of course, and that's one of the reasons that I wanted to make this recording, and so people can get these arsenal of ideas from each other and put it out there for other people. And I know it's hard to back clean up, Tim, because everyone may have already said everything you had to say, but do you have any more thoughts on this?
No, not really. I was just sitting here thinking, like, if somebody was really struggling with this, you know, I think, you know, the takeaway after listening to everyone talk is kids first, community first. And I think that culture, if someone's dealing with this, I think that they could really become an advocate for that in their school, because in our school, we all understand that it's not about winning. It is about process, but we do enjoy a lot of wins in a lot of things across, with band, with athletics. You know, so I think we're all teaching the same thing through different venues. We're trying to teach kids about life. And I think that if someone maybe has some issue with this, or how they might do that, I would say they really should think about how they can plug into the greater school community. Because right now it hasn't been, oh, we're going to look for Dr. Ellison and see what he's doing with his classes. Instead, it's been, oh, hey, there's Dr. Ellison coming up here to pick up a box of food to go take it to some kid's house. You know what I mean? Like, it's more than your content in advocacy. Well, I think what a lot of administrators want to see is, are you willing to invest, not just your expertise, but are you willing to invest in the lives of your students? And I think when they see that, a lot of the advocacy will take care of itself, because then in turn you become a person that people want to be around. And I think it really works itself out if you attack it from that approach.
Thank you. So for the next one, like I said, we've already covered some of the later questions, but I am going to ask about the program enrollment in terms of recruitment. Any ideas you have on that? And I guess I'd like to start from youngest students to oldest students there. So
I can't wait to hear this, Tiffany Hitz. I've got my pen and paper right here. I'm going to write like a madman.
So yeah, the question in full is, what steps have you been taking to maintain your program enrollment with traditional recruitment methods gone? Well, yeah.
Well, to begin with, in our county, elementary students can take band. They have a once-a-week band program in 5th and 6th grade. And then I teach at middle school. I teach just 7th and 8th grade. And then high school is 9 to 12. So just to give a framework for that. So some of the things we're doing, our middle school kids we're using Flipgrid a lot, as Chris had mentioned. And we have our middle school kids are making welcome videos for the elementary students. We created a Google Classroom for the elementary students, And that served many purposes, and the Flipgrid videos are going there so they have access, and it's kind of to start building that community. But also we're using it for elementary students to do auditions, and we already have that back and forth with them about that, and we're able to hear them not just from teacher recommendations of what band to place them in as 7th graders, and it's getting them. We had them, one of the first assignments was in the feed. They needed to introduce themselves and say where they went to school and what instrument they play, and what they're most looking forward to in middle school. Because we have 7 different elementary schools that come to our school. So they're starting to get to know each other. They're finding other people. Oh, you play flute too. And it's getting them used to how we do things, because Google Classroom is a really big part. As a county, we use Blackboard, but we also are really big. We have FCPS has license for Google Classroom as well. So everybody, teachers, students, everybody has an fcpsschools.net email. So it's a big thing. So we're getting the kids already kind of used to our system. For current kids, we have Panther postcards. In fact, I have a stack right here. It's part of our school PBIS program. But the idea during the school year is when you see somebody doing something really great, kind of above and beyond, you send it to their parents and let them know. And when this all happened, a friend of mine who actually is from North Carolina she came through and she took me to the post office, and I bought pages and pages of postcard postage. And we're making a point of working through all of the students and all of our current students of sending each one of them a postcard. Because even though we're not seeing right now a reason, it's not, I'm not seeing them help somebody in the hallway and being able to say, your kid was a great citizen today. It is probably something that they need. They probably need a little boost because they're not getting all of that interaction and that feedback in school. But it's helping them remember. I'm talking in these postcards about something that I've seen them do that was really great. Maybe they submitted a really great Google Classroom video, or they did all their videos on time, or they wrote a reflection because when they do their assignments for us, they always have to write a reflection about what they got better. Maybe they wrote like a really insightful reflection, or I can really hear them getting better. So we're making it a point, my teammate Chris and I are making it a point to send every kid one of these postcards. So we're kind of going down the list every week. All right, let's do these 10, let's do these 10. And then emails and calls, to current students. Just kind of, that's meant a lot. My son is in kindergarten, and that has meant a lot to him. Every week, one of his teachers or teacher's aides calls him. And wow. It's like 3 minutes, but it means the world to him. And so I'm trying to make a point to do those same things. And then I think part of the question was about, what do I plan to do if the future persists? And I think, the next step for us, and I think it's something that we would continue, is keep using those flip grids and, take it from introduction videos to, hey, pick your favorite 4 measures in this and perform it. And then, everybody can just watch what somebody's doing, and you can do different groups. It can be just the saxophones and just the flutes or whatever. It could be all the woodwinds. So you can create that, that family that we take pride in creating for our students. We can use that to create a lot of mini families and give them an outlet to be able to see each other and interact with each other, now maybe with their instruments too.
Thank you very much. That was fantastic. And there were a lot of great ideas there. That is making the students, turning your current students into, I guess, ambassadors for your program, adapting your existing PBIS structure to fit this so that you're not only continuing the teaching, you're continuing the existing behavior things you had going on in school. That's fantastic. Moving up through the older students, I guess, let's go back to Tim. We'll do band first.
Okay. So for us, with continuity in any program, there's always potential to lose the kids that are transitioning. And it could be for many reasons. They're scared, they're just not as comfortable with that teacher yet. There's a lot of things. So for me personally, the system that I have found that works is that you've got to find ways to engage your middle school students before they get to the high school. And we do things like that. I mean, it's just band director 101 stuff where like you have 8th grade night in marching band season where the kids come over and play some pep tunes in the stands with the high school kids, and you let you feed them a good supper, and you let the high school kids love on them a little bit, and they feel like $1 million when they leave. The other thing is my presence over. So I actually don't get an assigned time to be able to go to my middle schools. I actually take my planning period and do that. Middle school students are seeing me earlier on. They're starting to put a face with a name, and then I'm kind of at the middle school teacher's disposal in the classroom. For anything, like if they want to, hey, Tim, can you take my flutes today and go work on this while I work with the rest of the band, or, big sectionals, small sectionals, maybe some one-on-one stuff. I think the big important thing is getting your face out there and letting them see you, to know who you are, so that they don't feel quite so apprehensive about coming into your program. The other thing I'm doing is, when I got here, our county still does a lot of things via paper, like hard copy paper instead of online, which blows my mind. So I've actually been transitioning the program to online over the past 2 years. Like the calendar's online. Everything we're using is through Charms. So as Tiffany said, you've got to get them accustomed to your system and how you want to do things as they're coming in. So we've been reaching out through our social media. We have an intent form. It's a Google form, just very simple questions that give us some kind of, okay, they're taking the step to want to be in band. And then if I don't get anything from them, I take the list from my middle school directors and I call and I email until I get a hardcore answer. I mean, I just bother them and bother them and bother them. Like, we really want you in the band, but I haven't heard from you. Are you still planning to come? Anything like that. I think those are just, again, back to community. We want you here, and making sure we provide that for them. So that's what we're doing in our program. And will it work? I don't know. I don't have enough data. I don't have enough years of data to say, but I can tell you that if it doesn't, then we'll adapt it for next year.
Very nice. Jordan?
It's a little bit of everything that I've heard so far. I just to piggyback what I heard last, our program, I'm saying our band and chorus, the instrumental and chorus, we've kind of partnered up to tackle inside and out at the same time. So we do have an intent form that went to all our kids through Canvas. We want to know what you're doing. Within the school, that when you get projected enrollment, you get the ones you get to know who you will get back, and then those potential that have you on, like, maybe they want to be in your class. So we dog those. We do exactly what Tim said. We are calling up and down. You have 2 choices, yes or yes. So which one is it? No, please participate. We want you here. I don't sing. That's fine. You don't have to sing, but you will sing. So you'll figure it out. So those are things that worked while we were in school that could, like, transfer over. And right before that, we had a very small recruitment season that I do think was effective. I do think partnering with the middle schools is extremely important. I think also just the way that I try to involve the entire community with our school, even though there's 2 schools that really feed into us. I think that's been a positive influence on the school culture and the growth of the program. But going forward, I'm with my whole theme of borrowing what the students are already doing. when I got there, they told me about this thing called Finsta, which means a fake Instagram. It's what they basically use. They make an account so that their friends can see it, but their family can't see it. So take it and extract that and make that a bigger and more appropriate thing. It's kind of this is kind of like what Tiffany was saying. I want to create a space where all people can see what's going on, but we are the ones like that are just doing our regular work. So like taking that content and creating basically mini content creators, and then starting a YouTube channel that isn't focused on them showcasing their content. It's just, we put it there. People see what we're doing, along with what Chris was saying. People want to see a result. No matter what the result is, they want to see the people doing the thing. And so ideas for that, I actually had welcome videos as well. And then maybe some song, barring the idea of a virtual choir without all of the voices combined. It's just one song and you're borrowing their different voices for different parts of the song, which as like an invitational way to do something like that. Having students invite each other virtually, making those welcome videos like you said. But I really do think creating a platform where it's visible for everyone. And I did one myself where I wanted my personal life to stay my personal life, but I wanted my kids to see that I was human. But I also didn't want to make a specific like teaching Instagram. I wanted them to see that like I'm a regular person that does things. So trying to bring that mindset and create a YouTube channel that has nothing to do with me and everything to do with the choir and what we do, but it's them experiencing our regular Zoom calls. Let's say we were on here and having a conversation like this goes on the YouTube channel. We get on and we were talking about our favorite music movies and why on a Zoom call. That goes on the YouTube channel. People seeing that there's interaction and unfolding, creative unfolding that is consistently happening, no matter if it's happening together or separate. So again, with that idea of community.
Nice. Knock down the digital walls. Let's make your classroom very visible. I did want to say thank you for mentioning the idea of doing a song with them where it's not all together, not the virtual choir mixing and mastering 30 different tracks and recordings of varying microphone quality. Using that much more scaled back and manageable systems. That's a very good thing to have brought people's attention, that doesn't have to be all or nothing. Musicians, we are perfectionists. We like to sit in a room and practice it until it's perfect before we're willing to put it out there. But there's also this thing about, being visible means showing those steps, showing how the sausage gets made, making that very apparent, making it clear that for a lot of us that it's in some way it's not something that just anyone can walk in and do as well. That also shows our worth as music educators.
I do think it's also important to note for all of us, for all educators, for all people, my favorite thing about the virtual transition was that I'm watching people that had a difficult time adapt. And so there's a split brain with me. One, those that had a difficult time like merging with their kids and adapting and not understanding like that huge divide are now forced to because they want to get paid. But it's real, and now they're on a more creative side. But so for us creative people, like you just said, it's hard from the way that we were trained to not do it all if that's what's presented. And Chris brought up earlier, there's two people. They do virtual choirs or they don't. I'm not trying to tune a whole bunch of out-of-tune high school singers without me being able to be in front of them the whole time. It would not work in my situation. So I think it's important for educators to talk about how it's situational. My situation will not ever, even if they can be as in tune or superior or whatever they do in class, that would not reflect if we did a virtual choir. And that could be because of my error, because of any other process that could possibly get in the way. But what would work is a simplified or modified version of that. And that's okay. And it's okay that we're making mistakes. It's okay that we don't understand either. And it's okay to say that we don't understand. And that's what I like have not been hearing. I've been seeing all this excellent content coming out, and I just wanted someone to get on there and say, not only does this like suck, I'm having a hard time. And then I see a whole bunch of, you can do a virtual choir, no, you can, you can use Note Flight. You can use smart music. It doesn't have to be these elaborate ways to make connections with your kids. You make them the way that you made them in the classroom to the best of your ability. And so that's what I'm learning myself.
Oh yeah. Not to interject too much, as I'm supposed to be facilitator here, but when you mentioned people struggling and people adapting to it, that I didn't realize you were talking about teachers at first, because I just wanted to bring up to the point that I have seen some students who struggled in my context with the lessons we were doing. Some of it was the fact that they were with their peers and they have focus issues. Some of it was just the sheer content we were doing. Like, I had one young man who could not keep himself engaged and present to learn the ukulele, could not make himself do the fine motor skills of the instrument. And like, while in a classroom setting, suddenly I put him on Chrome Music Lab with their song maker, the mini DAW sequencer, and he's just posting like multiple videos a day. And I'm about to go through and make like a progression, like record all the links he sent me and show his like first one, chaos, to like now he's doing things that would almost fall under counterpoint just by like working through it. So it is nice to see that this system also lets some students shine.
Yeah.
But yeah, on to Chris. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. This is incredible. I'm enjoying the dialogue, the conversation. It's amazing. And to Jordan's, he and I have actually talked a lot outside of this, and we've talked a great deal. And I had to say this to my colleagues at the university, that our traditional ensembles cannot be replaced by a virtual ensemble. They're not the same in any way. They are not the same. They cannot be compared. It's apples and oranges. It is a completely different process. It's a completely different product. It's a completely different experience. The only thing I can say that really pulls them together is the fact that it's a group of people working to achieve a common goal, and that there's a bit of unity there. And it is really contingent on your available resources and your attitude towards the resources you have access to, and we make choices based on those. And so the reward system is important too. Don't forget that. Some people are rewarded for certain things and not for others. We're motivated for certain things and not for others. And there's a lot that goes into that psychologically that pushes us in the directions that we choose to go. But we have to stay focused on the thing we always keep talking about, our students and their needs. So the question, what steps have I taken to maintain program enrollment? First of all, we'll see what that looks like in the fall. And like Jordan mentioned earlier, we have projected enrollment. We still do that in higher ed. We have projected enrollment. We have a list of students who might be attending. We have a list of students who might be enrolled in courses. We'll see what those numbers actually look like. But what I can say is, for my particular context, we have a higher enrollment in the fall than we've had in the past. So we've actually increased enrollment, which is a good thing. And that's really nice for me. But what does that really look like? We'll find out, because even though they might have committed to AU, will they actually show up? And that's the thing we're going to see. So things that I do. First and foremost, the most important thing is the connection between the student and the teacher. The relationship is the first and foremost thing. Every student that I've recruited to Anderson who have come to sing in the choir have made it very clear the reason why they came in initially was because of my relationship with them. So that speaks volumes to our interactiveness, our actual human-to-human connection. Some might be attractive to the fact that, they produce superior ratings, or they go to contests and get trophies, right? Some people might be pulled to that too, because everybody is drawn to success, right? Like a moth to a flame. Success breeds success. But how do you define success? If we define success through empathetic, authentic relationships rooted in trust, that from which grow successful opportunity, hey, you got a winning combination right there. For me personally, staying active, staying engaged, staying front of mind through generating product or generating things, being creative and whatever. And what Jordan was hitting it on the thing. You can't be afraid of technology and your presence on social media and how you present yourself. I mean, there's definitely a level you don't want to cross, but by consistently generating content. Think about marketing professionals. By constantly putting out content, you're staying front of mind and you're being aware. People are being aware of you and your work and where you're at. Now that we're completely digital, that's even more important. If you're not producing some kind of thing, whether it's just videos of you tinkering or a blog or I don't know, anything that you can think of now to put it in front of people, people are forgetting about you. You've got to really work on your digital presence, right? Continuously communicating with our colleagues, keeping the bridge connected. I'm doing Zoom sessions with high school choirs that are still meeting. The secondary schools are still in school. They're still in session. And high school, I mean, colleges, well, our last week of class just ended. So, we're moving on to the summer semester. But I know many of my high school student friends, they're still in class. And I'm going in doing Zoom sessions with their choirs live. And so we're meeting and we're communicating and we're asking questions and answering questions and continuing to be that engaged. So continuing to keep those relationships with your colleagues. For example, if I'm a high school director, I'm going to want to do that with my middle school director. I'm going to want to contact my middle school feeder. And I'm going to say, can we have a Zoom session with the middle school kids and the high school kids? This would be so cool. We could play a game together. Keeping the bridge there. If you don't, it goes away. Continued engagement with students who express interest. We've already talked about this. Everybody has already shown some sort of way. We nag, we call, we send postcards, but being consistent. We want to belong. It's one of our human nature things, right? We want to learn, we want to grow, right? We want to feel loved, we want to have purpose, but we also strongly need to belong. Boy, think about all the things that we do just because of that in our society. These kids want to belong to something that has meaning and purpose. So obviously connect to that, grab that and bring that in. I like to create hype videos and things of that nature that promote the classes I teach. And I'm not just saying choir, but I do it for my grad classes too. I mean, who writes a hype video for a research course? I do. Why? Because I want people to be excited. And I hate to say this, but it might sound shallow, but I need to manufacture that desire in people. People need to see, oh my gosh, I want to be part of that because it looks cool. You've got to make what you do fun. And if it's not fun, why do it? I say that all the time. It hurts my heart when somebody comes up to me and say, I never knew choir could be fun and I can learn at the same time. And I go, I'm sorry. You've been abused your whole life. So we've got to generate content that engages our community. We have to really sink into the primary needs that we have, right? The need to belong, the need to be loved, the need to find our truth. And lastly, something that we're doing at AU is we have a very strategic plan as faculty in engaging people. And I know everybody has some sort of plan, right? We've got to recruit, because we all know if we don't recruit, we don't have people to teach. We don't have people to teach. We ain't got jobs. So having a strategic plan in place, I think is a very crucial and very important thing to do.
Okay, well, thank you. We've already talked a lot about the fourth question I had, which was, what are the strategies you would use if we're still doing it in August? That has come up over the course of the discussion, as these things do. So in interest of time, I'm going to move on to number 5, which would be, what are some strategies you plan to use if we're back in schools? So if we're back physically together, but still trying to observe social distancing and high sanitation, what are some logistic strategies, if you've given any thought to that? Like we've already talked about not sharing instruments and things like that, but I'm going to start from Choral. I guess you can pick it back up, Chris. But yeah, what are strategies you have for when we eventually go back and are still not fully able to be back to normal?
So I have a whole list of Post-it notes here. First of all, ask your students about the process you're currently dealing with. Ask your students about how can we improve. Have that dialogue. Have students talk with each other in an open way, in a very safe environment, so that they can really express themselves without feeling like they're going to be attacked in any way. I've gained so much knowledge from my students, and I'm going to use that to help me moving forward. One of the things that my students asked was, It would be really cool if we had a warm-up video online, because many of our singers, even at the collegiate level, they're first-time singers, or it's their first time involved in a choir. They've been singing their whole life, but they've never been in a choir. And so they don't have that routine of how do I warm up? And of course, let's remind ourselves, we're the outliers here. We understand the process of warming up and how we engage the body and the mind for preparing ourselves to sing or play, but a younger person might not. And so to give them that knowledge and to help them with that is important. So my students are asking for those kinds of things. So I will be producing a warm-up video, going through the stages of a warm-up process so that they can learn through doing. Another thing that I'm going to do is do a better job at producing rehearsal tracks. Now, I'm a sound before sight before theory guy. And I'm not going to ignore the fact that the vast majority of singers who join a choir for the first time do not read music. Why would I force them to read when they can't read and they're already having a hard time dealing with this new normal? So what I'll do is produce music sectionals where they can see the music and hear their part sung by a voice that they can actually understand, meaning a voice that's of their type. And I'd like to produce these for all the songs that we'll pick. I've been doing this now for years, though. I mean, this isn't new, and people have been doing this for a long time. So but I'm going to continue that practice, because I won't lie. When I got to Anderson University, I started to continue to do these, but then committee work and this and that and the other thing got in the way, and the job kind of started to blow up. And so the things that I was producing weren't as finely polished as what I used to do. And so I started to find what people are already throwing on YouTube. So now I need to get back on the horse and produce better supplemental materials. Another thing that my students are really wanting is they're really wanting to have that sectionals. And Tiffany mentioned this earlier. You can use Zoom to have the entire group come together, and then you could put them into groups and have sectionals where they work together in groups. So I plan on doing that. I plan on putting them into sectionals, having them with a section leader go through the music and have conversations about what they're learning. And then I'll go through, just like I used to do when I was in high school. I'd run to the practice room and work with the sopranos, then run to the other practice room and work with the altos, and run to the dressing room and work with the tenors, and then run to the choir room and work with the basses. And then, bring it all back together at the end. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. It's going to happen. And lots of our colleagues have been expressing online how they've been doing this. So there's lots of material for me to draw from on this. So we're going to do a warm-up videos. We're going to have more rehearsal tracks to help them with their music learning. We're going to have sectionals via Zoom. Well, I guess the next thing for me is to figure out what's the end goal. Some of us, back to my topic, is a product. Yeah, we're going to have a product, and I'm probably going to create multiple products from this. Our process, I'm going to want to record the process and give people all these great little snippets of where we're at and what we're doing. And like you've seen me do before, I'll just turn my phone on and record the choir just having fun for the sake of having fun and put it online for people to see. Does it sound great? No. Is it supposed to? I don't care. We're not extinguishing joy in the process. So, I think we're going to continue to capture that joy in the process and continue to throw it out there. And I won't lie, the kids love it, especially when you arrive in a T-Rex costume. Maybe I'll do that online too. So for the ensemble courses, we're gonna have to pick all the music. So here's the big takeaway. You have to front load everything. I've been teaching online for a long time now. You can't do this in August. You have to front load everything. You have to build your rehearsal tracks. You have to plan your rehearsals. You have to do everything. This is something a lot of traditional teachers are not used to. We're normally like a week or two ahead of our students. Can't do that in an online world. You have to have everything ready to roll on day one. And so have all of your content up, all of your videos up. Have a welcome video, have an introduction video, have a way for you to have your students build community at the onset, have them build videos themselves. That's why Flipgrid is great. And engage in community from the onset. And the music will happen. Now, you don't have to have a video at the end of the choir performing. You don't have to. I mean, that's not the goal. But if it is a goal, then you're going to have a system, some kind of system for putting that together. And of course, there's more than one option out there. You don't have to become a Pro Tools guy. You don't have to have Adobe Premiere. There's free software that is out there that you can put things together. You can use iMovie and GarageBand. You don't have to do it all. You can farm it out. Since we're not putting on traditional concerts, what are you going to do with that money? If you can advocate with your administration, you'll use that money for something else. And if you were like me back in my high school days where 100% of your entire income was fundraised, now you've got to get more creative with your fundraising, because, I mean, I'm not going to say, people know where I taught. I had $0 in the budget from the school system, but we had a ton of money in the bank because we did a ton of fundraisers. But now we can't meet, and we can't sell stuff at the Dean Dome. We can't sell stuff at, the football stadium. We can't sell cookie dough and cheesecakes. But there's other things that we can do now with our new normal. We just have to be creative with finding the funding to pay for the tools that we need to be successful. I can get off this horse now. I got to get off this horse. I got to get off, because I can do this all day.
Going back through choral land, do you have anything to add, Jordan, about logistics of distance choir?
Now, I totally misinterpreted that question. I thought that if we went back and we had to maintain social distancing, like we were in the classroom and we needed to be like if we were together.
That is more of what I meant.
Okay, well, so now I'm thinking on both sides, because that's just what I was thinking. Chris is just feeding my mind. But if we were, the whole thing is being innovative. I mean, I'm a creature of change, and I love to create, and I love change. So I'm not having a problem with, the things that are moving, but I know that I tackle things as they change. So that's the one thing I'm worried about as someone who doesn't front load. So, I'm thinking about what that adapting part is going to look like for me if we do continue online in the fall, because I want to continue to have a successful program, no matter if it starts looking like a general music classroom or if it completely turns into what I know the demographic of my community. They would need a contemporary outlet. The idea of traditional choir would probably fade away with me, and not because I would want it to. I would want them to read, I would want them to experience, but it wouldn't look like choral music anymore. And like, that's if we ended up being maintaining those social guidelines and we ended up staying at home. Now, if we were having class and they allowed us to have our, not 10-person classes, I'm totally out here for the ideas of the videos like we praise, when we see 500 people in like a hotel and they're singing one of Eric Whitacre songs, but they're all standing in different places, then extracting that idea, putting us all in the auditorium and standing in different places and truly giving each other singer space, and having them become autonomous as musicians. It's like, no, you can't depend on him, because you are now singing your part for you by yourself. So I could totally see most of the traditional the things that I do maintaining if we went back. But it looks like us meeting in the auditorium and everybody sitting in different places. It doesn't look like us sitting in my classroom. It doesn't look like rehearsing in the classroom. It looks like smaller groups and coming together when it's time. And when we come together, it'll still look different. And I think back to when I'm not even sure, it was a high school in North Carolina. I just don't remember where it was at. Conference, and had everyone standing at different parts of the stage, and they were performing Come Sweet Death. And I was like, interesting, because they had to be able to do that alone. It couldn't be dependent on anyone else. So it's all about how we continue to look at it, and how we continue to see the glass half full. The distance will be difficult, but the distance also means if we're together, I have stronger individual musicians that aren't dependent on each other, because they are separate, because they have to be separate. If we're not there, I can probably produce more creative musicians that become content creators and use of the technology that they already have. I always tell my kids, given $1,000 device you use to text, you're killing me. Figure something else out. And so like borrowing some of those ideas and use your phone to create. If you have an iPhone, you have GarageBand, you have all these other things you can do with it to make quality content that you can put out and teach them about things like we were talking about, like with marketing, or with, kind of completely shifting the idea of what choir is. And this is in my world, but I know how I would navigate that. It absolutely would be a mindset in music making. It would be all about how do you become a better society member. And music, like Chris was saying, is a vehicle, but we may not have the projects that we did with choir, but you're going to create now. And that doesn't stop that. You can collaborate with people. Okay, you're in a group. This person singing this part, this person singing that part, and one of y'all going to learn how to play drums. I don't know how to play drums. All right, you're going to bang on something and we're going to make it work. We're just figuring out a way to not stop and make sure that there's forward momentum and through change, because I also think that's when we're creating music, band, choir, orchestra, it doesn't matter really what it is. When we put on performances for the community, it's because there is some element of change that we want the audience to experience. So that's kind of how I want to navigate it. What are people going to see from you? And then continue to just kind of create, innovate, and keep your head up.
All right. So that's lots of good stuff in the choral land. Admittedly, the land that I'm a little bit more interested and almost scared to tackle, and with this question of like, when we're back in class, what does that look like? When we're back in person, what does that look like? Do you want to start us off, Tiffany, for band land?
Sure. I've spent a lot of time attending Zoom sessions in the evenings, and a lot of people have been talking about this, and just trying to wrap my head around the fact that I might only have 5 or 10 students at a time. So one thing that is at the forefront of my mind for that is if traditional schooling looks different, if we are in buildings, but we're not all there at the same time and students are staggered and those types of things, is as much as I can try to be involved in the scheduling of my students, so that it isn't just like right now I have a 70-piece band, and it isn't just like, well, we'll take the alphabet and we'll take this many and you can have them now and this many, so that I can be a participant in figuring out instrumentation or ability level or something, so that I can give the students the best experience possible. I know that I'll need to get creative with what literature we use. We've got a lot of trio and quartet for all books, and we'll probably use a lot of those. And thankfully, we've got composers like Brian Balmages and Frank Tikelli that are working on reworking some of their pieces, with the possibility of I know I spoke with Brian Balmages about Moscow 1941, turning that into a 4-part flex band, so that you can work on that in these small groupings of varied instrumentation, and you can put whoever you need on the melody part and whoever else wherever, to try to make those things work. I know that in those settings, the ensemble skills are certainly different. So I feel like in those settings, I'm going to be focused a lot more on the individual musicianship and the individual ability. So I know I'm going to need to, we've been working on a Google site for our band, and I know I'm going to need to embed a lot of resources into that, so students have maybe more clear access to some of those things that will help them develop ensemble skills, like maybe some great recordings, just so that their whole experience isn't just the 4 other people they play with. And then thinking about, possible use of the gym after school time and things like that. So I have all these small groups during the day, and maybe once a week we can use the gym, and we can, just put everywhere, wherever we can. And it could be a whole mess of sound carrying at different times. And it could be like the terrible virtual choirs that we've seen, some of those, right, of trying that, but at least they get to play together. Even if they're not able to stay together, at least they can play together and experience that. And, just trying to plant all these seeds in my head of, if this, then this. I feel like our whole lives right now are choose your own adventure books. If you remember those, if you're of my age or whatever, and, you're just thinking, if this happens, then these are possibilities. If this happens, these are possibilities. But just kind of, I think any of those pieces that can be reworked and fit for different groups are going to be our friends.
All right, and Tim?
Yes, so much great information. For me, I won't take much time. I completely subscribe to the Scott Rush philosophy. And if you're not sure what that is, basically what he promotes in all of his writings and his habits books in that series is that you structure your ensemble time such that half of the time is spent working on fundamentals. And it's not you're sitting there playing long tones for 45 minutes. It's teaching kids about building up those skills, because how many times have you heard somebody say, if you can play your scales, you can play anything? Well, there's some major truth to that. So, for me, even if I'm in class or we're out of class, that's how I structure the first, and I'm not quite on board with 50% of my rehearsal time being that, just because of the pressure of having to perform weekly and like halftime with football and, that sort of thing. But, in a 90-minute block, I do give 1/3 of my rehearsal time to fundamentals. And that starts with breathing, stretching. I mean, he's got it all laid out in his books, and I've adapted it to where it works for my situation. But I think that's probably the big thing. And then what everybody else has already said with, duets, trios, flex band stuff, supplementing it with that. So really, it's not going to look that much different. It's just, is it going to be in person or is it going to be online?
I want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you very much for your time and for all of your great ideas. And, this has given me a whole lot to think about. And I hope that this video will be very helpful to others as we navigate this unprecedented time. You have to say it in every Zoom meeting, this unprecedented time. So any last encouraging words before we close?
Be your best self every day. Don't extinguish joy. Keep your kids at the center, not your content or your own ego.
Yep.
Keep your friends close. Keep bridges well maintained, and know that you are good enough and you are enough. You are beautiful. End of story.
And even though that it's hard, student or teacher, we are capable of change, no matter who you are. And there is always a positive outlook on everything. There is no one way to look at something. And when you're faced with adversity, educators, when you're faced with the challenge, it's our job to show our kids that they can overcome the challenge too. So put your big boy, big girl pants on and tackle it. You got it. You can do it.
I would say just to make sure you take care of yourself. I feel like one of the issues in our profession is that we play the compare game a lot, and this is a really dangerous time to do that. And you see somebody else doing really well and thriving, and you're just struggling with your classes or your kids aren't attending or whatever, and everybody's in a different boat. And just give yourself the same kindness and grace that you give others.
Well, thank you all very much. Have an excellent day.
Thank you.
Peace out.
Bye, y'all.